this? Double Koreans in a KVT game? I think I've died and gone to heaven. We gotta get down to business. Our map is Grezvin. It's a wide style macro map with the full 16 faces. Oh, and I'm already loving that skin that our Terran player's using. Depot down, and here comes that opening edifice, I think. Yes, it's gonna be a ramp block. It is the first primal pudding of the evening. But be warned, do not stare into the maelstrom, for therein lies the path to madness. Okay, I really need to dial it back, but I can't because we gotta do some intros here. Our Keiron player in the bottom right is a Hindi word which translates into demon. I give you Asure! Though that could be a total coinky-dink, his name might just be some sounds he thought sounded cool. Edifice is gonna finish up. Remember, that's a gateway and a pylon all in one. But the edifice has to generate a charge before he can do anything with it. I am such a fan, and speaking of industrial fans, if you wanted to buy one, you'd need to go to the New York Blower Company, NYB, or NIBE. 3 SCVs on that refinery well before that rack's finished up. And he's racking minerals, so this could be our conservative Reaper expand. And there's the Reaper, we just need that command center to go with it. Asure did send that early scout, and he's already at work on his own citadel. So that's a theoretical economic edge. Save for that, we're even on workers, and Knives almost got his orbital, so he's gonna have mules to add to the equation. It's gonna be so hard not to call our Terran player Neeb. A Sanctum is shaping in. That's gonna unlock your pulsars and your subjectors. It used to always mean subjectors, but nowadays it means a lot more pulsars. Nibe has to use an extra SCV to chase off Azur's converter. And the Reaper is out. Does it have an opportunity to chase down that converter? Get himself a quick first blood here. If memory serves me, there is a Reaper door on this map. Oh, we've got a conduit coming in for Keiron. Builds the charges for the Echo and the Fuse. Oh, methinks that converter is gonna get chased down. It doesn't have a lot of health. It's not sexy, but it's a first blood nonetheless. It's a trap! And the Reaper's able to get... No, he does not get through. Clearly he was a victim of the sweet range on those 3 volts. Props to Asure for successfully predicting exactly what his opponent was about to do. He may also have intimidated his opponent into making a bunker, but that may also just be part of his standardized build. Conduit has shaped in, it's building a charge, but look at this. We've got ourselves an outlet mall. Double air facilities for Keiron, auroras and apertures. I'd be keen to see either. Factory for Terran, but also a 3rd command center. He can lift that off to go for a triangular 3rd, but in the meantime, it's effectively protected by the bunker at his natural. Hold the phone, Asure just added a 2nd outlet, that's his 3rd air facility. There's no eBay for Terran, which means no missile turrets. If we're gonna be seeing auroras, that's gonna be an issue. Terran's instead grabbing a tech lab. I think that's for the factory. And the Volt Trifecta, still obviously chuffed up over their Reaper kill, are gonna push out. Gonna maybe try to add a little pressure. I don't think they can outrange a bunker. And that bunker is fully loaded. Oh, that SCV is leaving at just the right time. 2nd racks being made for Terran. You know I don't love Marines in this matchup just because Myriads dominate them so badly. Oh smart, Volts are going for the low-hanging fruit. Gonna try to force those Marines to leave the bunker. A little bit of cat and mouse here. Keiron up 7 workers, but we're about the same on income. That's the magic of mules. Keiron's Energize gets you a harvesting bonus, but it's not the same. Asure backs off. I really like that. Really, he just popped over there to see if there was any easy kills. Not finding any, he sees no reason to throw his Volts away. And just maybe he's rattled his opponent enough that he's free to put down a Citadel unopposed at his 3rd. Whenever you have an opponent on your doorstep, the reflex is always to make more units. Nibe hasn't really fallen for that. He's mostly still working on his economy. He is getting a starport. I think he's gonna be wanting that if these air units ever come. Asure has made an Aurora. Oh, and as I say that, it looks like he's gonna push out with it. Yeah, no missile turrets at all. That could be tough to defend with Marines, and in my opinion, you don't wanna be making a lot of Marines because Asure's just gonna kill them later with a Myriad. I'd like to see somebody try Marauders in this matchup. An Elysium at the natural. Looks like that Aurora decided to wait for a buddy. That's what they say to young Auroras, always adopt the buddy system when you're headed out to massacre SCVs. If Naib could scout this, he'd want to immediately start making a cyclone. Oh, even worse, this is a two-pronged attack. I think the land units are the feint, but maybe Asure doesn't care, he'll go with either. Naib's got a sieged up tank and he's building a wall, so he's in pretty good shape against the land attack. But guess what's gonna rip away all his land defense? Double E-bays still in production, those got delayed just a little bit too much. Look at that, right in the script, all the Marines getting peeled off. Worker pull, that means we're gonna see some lost mining time. But Naib has to be happy that he didn't build both his engineering bays in his main. The second one's in his wall, so that means it's gonna complete. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the ground assault is gonna get that tank, but the loaded bunker should be enough to survive here. Oh, you can really tell Asure's microwing at the main. But Keiron is pulling in twice as many minerals as the Terran right now. That is a victory of sorts. Oh, and the depot door was down. He's rolling right into the natural. Oh, Terran's gonna clean this up, but there's gonna be a cost for this. Stim and combat shields are getting researched, but so is volt speed. There's the cleanup, sort of, because there's still one Aurora kicking around. Naib's got that all-important turret up in the center of his mineral line, but somebody needs to send that Aurora packing. Great discipline from our Terran player. He drops his mules to try to catch up, because he is very much the definition of behind right now. Keiron ahead by 20 workers, and he's ahead on supply and army, and he's reloaded his Auroras. Oh, and just in case you haven't heard, there has been an interesting change with the Aurora. The Emanator still grants vision, but it no longer grants detection. Oh, I'm not sure either player saw what they needed to there. Naib knows he needs to do some damage and he's gonna try to counter. It looks like he will get to hit first, but holy smokums, will he be vulnerable if this doesn't work. He needs vision up that ramp, and he's gonna get caught with his tank unsieged, but it might be enough. Stim and combat shields are in play. No numeric upgrades for either player yet. Asur does have a crux to defend, and he's shaping in 2 turrets to help him out. I don't think Naib realizes every second he keeps the Keiron busy, he's saving his main from getting savaged. Spoke too soon, time's up. Who cares about surveillance emanators? We got lasers. Yes, Auroras have received the nerf buff, but you get enough of them together, that's a critical mass. Naib with the tower hug, that's a big save. Asure goes for plan B, starts picking off the building SCVs, that's what he wants. An SCV that's under command is usually high priority. There's a land assault as well, but it is definitely secondary. The beef was all in the attack on the main. Asure's shaping in a foundry. You need that to get that atrium. That's what I'm afraid of for Terran. So many Marines, not enough tanks. Or Cyclones. I think a couple Cyclones would be very valued here. He has a starport. Even a single Viking would be gold right now. Oh, Naib's ahead of me. One's popping out right now. Yeah, it's rallied the wrong way. Scanner sweep, extending the range on that tank. Asur's pulsars do not have the dampener ability research. That's what makes the pulsar so resistant to splash damage, and you can see he just kind of splatted instead. Though that last shot was probably direct damage anyway. Where is that Viking? If Naib landed and lost it off screen, I'm gonna cry. Well, the good news is he didn't lose it. The bad news is it appears to be in a control group with his medevacs. We've all been there. So for the second time in a row, Naib successfully staves off a 2-pronged attack from the Keiron. But he's even slightly further behind than before. I like this for Asure, he's gonna keep the pressure on. There is though a second Viking in production. There should be a clock on the Aurora harass at this point. Naib scans around to confirm it's about to become 4 bases to 3. And up, here it comes. 6, count them, 6 atriums in production. There's gonna be a myriad of myriads pretty soon. And if Naib doesn't transition his focus off of Marines, this game will be over. In the last patch, they actually got rid of the Anisoptera wings research. For those of you who don't speak Anisoptera, that means the Elytra automatically start with their speed now. The Myriad actually got a buff. A great game sense by Naib, trying to shut down this base before Asure can really lock it down. Where are the Vikings? Where is the air support? The Auroras are just getting too much done. I don't know if Terran has the army to pull this off, but I love the tank placement here. He's using the terrain to really punish the Keiron every time it tries to step forward. The crux of the matter, though, is that Asure still has his crux. He's gonna try to bull rush his way through this. Oh, lightning just ripping through those Marines. I really support what Naib was trying to do there. He just didn't have enough. The good news for Naib, though, is that was an efficient engagement. The army disparity is not looking nearly as bad as it once was. Terran's making new reactored Vikings. Will they be more useful, or will they drift away on a bad rally? He recovers them, and he's even got a third one coming back from the front. Wow, Naib is actually winning on resources lost. He's actually been the more efficient player. Unfortunately, that doesn't get you the game if you're playing from an economic deficit. Naib is trying to do something about that. He's got his fourth in play. It's 4 bases to 4. The army size really isn't that dissimilar, but it definitely feels like Keiron has had the upper hand in this game, and I'm so worried about the myriad shift. I mean, just look at all those sexy atriums. Or there's even a pantheon going down. We might be seeing space doggies. Asure's also dropping Oculus at the edges of the map. I'm not sure it's gonna matter for this particular game, but the Oculus's vision base is now a detector. Oh, perfect timing. He should be able to see this drop attempt. And indeed, as we saw, Asure has put some Stratus on the left side of his base. That medevac can't just roll in there without taking some hits. Hey, the joy of being ahead. You don't have to skimp on the turrets. So Asure's got his +1 biological and his +1 mechanical attack. And now he's adding +1 shields. Oh, this is a tough landing. Brace for impact. Oh, he pulls back. Good recognition, but now the jig is definitely up. Terran adding more factories. You gotta love that. That's how you deal with the myriads. The problem is, yes, tanks splat the Elytra, but then Keiron has an easy time switching over to inducers. So recently in the comments, somebody asked, why do we keep seeing Umbras in the Keiron Death Ball? It's a waste of their forte, which of course is to act as the cloak unit. But when they A-attack in a death ball, they lose the cloak and then they become ineffective. Well, I tried to defend it by pointing out that the Umbra has an important niche as the Keiron unit that does the bonus damage against armor, which is very important against Terran. But that's just not the real reason. I think the reason why you see Umbra here and in a lot of other games is just because the Foundry is a prerequisite for the Atrium. And then once you have the Foundry, it generates charges, so you might as well use them. You find yourself in a tough spot, you activate every charge you got. Oh my god, look at the great work with the Oculus here. That's all vision. It's also now permanent detection, but that's not really relevant here. Look at that, these Auroras know they have a free path. Wow, Asure's making the Terran comstat look pretty weak. No, he spotted it. But 2 missile turrets is not enough, I don't think. There's not gonna be a repair hug on those and they are just gonna go down. I mean, you know how the saying goes. Attack me once on the right-hand side of my base, shame on you. Attack me twice on the right-hand side of my base, shame on me. Attack me 7 times on the right-hand side of my base, and shame on something. All right, let's see if I'm right about these myriads. The Marines should be useless, but the tanks should be supreme. Oh, Naib has pulled off his Vikings to bring themselves to help. Oh, he did not want that to happen. Oh, there's a Titan with a fuse on it just pushing into those tanks. Oh, Naib is landing the Vikings for extra firepower. He needs those back at home. The Titan just cuts right through them like butter. The only good news for Terran is that the Myriads are not pressing the attack. They're staying back to finish off the command center. And now the Auroras have free reign on the right side of the base. There still is 1 missile turret. Okay, so the Elytra are not really meant for destroying buildings, but it's not like they can't do the job. I mean, you're not supposed to kill a guy with a spoon, but you could. Oh, the Titan's down to his last shred of health. Somebody needs to finish him off. And there it is, and the Crux is gonna fall right after. And for the moment, Terran is held once again. Look at that. The Myriads got bored watching the Elytra try to blow up the command center, so a couple of them actually went in there and used their melee attack. These Aurora are going for the record of most time spent in a Terran main. Okay, so it's chaos. Terran's holding by a thread. I thought he was done for, but he's still in. But Asure has triple the economy at this point. Naib's gonna ladder Marines into his own base to try to deal with the Auroras. I know I've been bashing Marines in this matchup, but at the end of the day, Marines are still high utility. Asure's doing a refresh on the Titans. Oh, it looks like triple transfused Titans. TTT, let's call that T-Cube. Yes, it's death by T-Cube. I honestly don't know how Naib is taking this kind of punishment, but look at that resiliency. He's rebuilding his 4th. That'll put him back on even bases. Oh, Asure is making the Aegis. That has got to be one of my favorite tools in the Keiron bag. Oh, and Keiron has taken a 5th, so much for even bases. Naib is sending in some suicide SCVs for some vision here. And it looks like he's gonna discover the Keiron is taking a 6th. Looks like Naib is gonna try to convert his newly made 4th into a planetary. There are some very forward bases on this map. You can't argue with the choice of a planetary. Asure readjusting his Oculus on the left-hand side, and then he swings his army that direction. I'm not sure why, because he's given up the high ground, but maybe he hopes to take his opponent by surprise with a different attack angle. Oh, it's not T-cube anymore, it's T-quad. 4 transfused Titans. The fortress did get to complete, and there's a very healthy cloud of medevacs over that ball of Marines. But I don't think that can save him from the Elytra swarm that I see coming. To say nothing of the entire family of Titans. Yes, there's probably a Teen Titan. Yep, it's Titan number 5. Asure's getting pretty close to maxing out. Oh, you gotta be careful with those comstat scans. The last time I scanned my opponent and saw he had 4 transfused Titans, I accidentally slipped and hit the G key a couple times. It's been known to happen. Oh wow, Keiron just bullies into that and takes a huge amount of damage. There's 4 siege tanks pounding away and a fortress hug. The Titan attacks are all on the fortress. And as tanky as they are, that doesn't mean they can literally stand there and take tank shots. Asure throws away his army and the supplies are actually even. Oh my goodness, is there a window for Naib to actually counterattack? I'm not ready to call this a comeback, because Asure has a severe economic advantage still. But Terran scoring some points in a very bleak situation. Asure's gonna have to go back to kicking his butt with Auroras. He doesn't really have the bank at the moment to really shape in a whole new army. Keiron shapes in emergency volts and then just adds 1 Titan, that's all he can afford. Naib's main still isn't all that well protected, even though he's got a ton of his production facilities still there. He's probably operating under the assumption that his opponent is gonna follow Rule-67.8, which provides you may not attack the same spot more than 7 times. I know, I'm a nerd, I read the official Starcraft rulebook. Meanwhile, the Keiron main looks like a ghost town in comparison. Everybody's long since left. There we go, we've got a Zenith shaping in for Keiron. I really like this for Asure. Capital ships are probably pretty good against tanks, but most of his supply has gone back into infused Titans, but also inducers. Inducers versus tanks, it feels like the inevitable KVT matchup. Can the Keiron player get the successful mix of myriads and inducers? Meanwhile, Naib's like, please attack my fortress again, please. Oh, there we go, Marauders. Marauders are a really good call for Terran. I think, I don't know, because we almost never get to see them, certainly not in late game. Oh, the amount of vision these 2 players have is just crazy. Oh, I think Asure's gonna get baited into going for that fortress again. I mean, he can get it, but wow, can Naib make it expensive for him. This is gonna be a mine out situation if Keiron keeps smashing himself on the Terran D. Why not take out a squishy Terran orbital, one guarded by an empty bunker perhaps? That's what you find at the triangular third. At a minimum, you want to make those Terran tanks on siege. Oh, look at that Oculus ring. It's right next to the fortress. Maybe Asure's gonna try to long bomb him with the inducers then. Yep, that's the plan. Perhaps he can bait the tanks out and then he can squash them with the Titans. I like it more than the full frontal assault. I know. Why does everybody have to have something against full frontal? Because Gresvin is not a nudist colony, people. We have standards. Oh yeah, those inducers are really making pests of themselves. And then they're well positioned to hide behind the sight blockers. Naib's gotta drop scans if he wants to counter. And then when he does, he sees the fused Titans and thinks, maybe I don't want to counter. So another good call for Asure here. If his opponent isn't gonna come out and play, he's just gonna expand on him. Best way to kill a turtle. Oh, Asure's gonna split his forces and look to try to attack a second spot. Oh, great awareness by Naib. He sees that and chooses that a moment right to attack. The inducers have to run, their bodyguards are gone. Oh, they're coming back. But not before the Marauders with their concussive shells took out a ton of inducers. Once again, the supplies are evening out, only this time Asure's the man with the bank. Even trades are not such a horrible thing for Keiron anymore. Fusion Core going down for Terran together with the second starport. Are we gonna get to see some late game action? Asure has wisely decided not to smash himself on that fortress. He is indeed eyeing that triangular third. Only it looks like Asure saw it or Asure predicted it. His tanks are on the move. 7 bases to 4 for the Keiron. That would be pretty decisive, except a few of those are mined out. Is the triangular third vulnerable? Here come the tanks, but they are not sieged. The Thors are stuck in the back. Wouldn't Naib just love to have one high ground tank up in his main right now? Asure has no way to get vision up there, but Terran will be able to bully him away regardless. Oh, high-sec auto-tracking, being researched for Terran. Usually you think that gives you +1 to your missile turrets, but it's also +1 to the planetary fortress. Now the planetary only has a range of 6, so that +1 makes a big difference. If it means it gets the first shot off, that means there's 40 damage to splash right before the battle begins. Oh, Naib, you had a chance to get that tank up in that high ground position. Wow, look how close that Oculus is. Asure can just see everywhere that Naib is and where Naib is not. Knowledge is power, and Asure has a lot of it. The bunker falls, Asure's pretty much maxed out, and his bank is starting to look pretty obscene. Meanwhile, Naib is double expanding. He wants to get back in this. I really thought his triangular third would be crushed by now. But Naib is a cockroach that just won't die. Oh, but if he just sieged up a couple tanks in the corner of his third, oh, he actually is doing it. There's one is sieging up. That's gonna give him a great position if he drops a scan over there, which he does. He forces the pullback and he's gonna get the Oculus. Fortunately for Asure, he made a backup Oculus and a backup Oculus and a backup Oculus. And that's gonna give vision to his inducers and he's gonna take those tanks down. Asure can totally afford to lose a few inducers, he'll just make some more. What a battle this is turning into. This is just a grinder. We might need air units to break this stalemate. Anticipating that transition, Naib has made some Thors. Aegis in a nice forward position there. Asure says, what stalemate? I can kill his third. Naib says, not today. But he's got to do something about all the Oculus that are just rimming his base. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to talk about the Keiron vision changes. No, it is not. We've got a major drop here. It's a Thor drop. One of the most sexy and unrealistic animations in all of Starcraft 2. How does a medevac carry a Thor twice its size? Because it's folded, dagnabbit. So a bold surprise offensive by Naib. Can it change his fortunes? No! The Aegis teleports in and activates the shield. A terrific defensive maneuver. Naib's forced to pick up his units before his medevacs are destroyed. And then he finds even more Stratus at the main. Meanwhile, the battle rages on between Naib and Asur. You know what, I just had a great idea. I need to put in a graphic with the Korean player's actual English name. Of course, if I remember, by the time this video comes out, the graphic should already be there, which means it's already happened. Oh, those poor Thors can't find anywhere to set down. This is kind of crazy if you think about it. You and I are actually in different points in time. I'm only thinking of the graphic, but you've already experienced it. It's like I'm reaching into the future. I'm breaking the space-time continuum on YouTube. I'm blowing my mind. But you know that my mind's already blown. So, can I blow it? Ah, it's a time paradox. I should probably just cast the game and try not to think about it. Okay, Naib's finally decided to bring that shield down with his Thors. He's found an angle that he can't be attacked at. Oh, but he got greedy. He picked up, tried to find a better spot, and now the Volts are gonna come in and clean those Thors up. I think Volts are at least as good as Zerglings at killing Thors. Man, that shield had a lot of longevity. I better check how long it lasts now. I think it's been tuned up. The Thor drop was very expensive for Naib. It wasn't just the Thors he lost, it was also the medevacs. Now Asure decides to go back after that fortress he loves to try to kill so much. And the tank brigade is there. This kind of feels like one of those chess games where you know you've won, you've eliminated so many of your opponent's pieces, but you just can't figure out how to mate the king. And until you do, there's always that risk that your opponent is gonna find a way to turn things around and beat you. You think a guy named Zugzwang would come up with more chess references for his casts? Well, there you go. I did it once and it sort of worked. But I like this for Asure. If you can't take your opponent's bases, take the map. Oh, now he's gonna try coming up the middle. And it's working for him. Naib's out of position. The sad part is by now that base is practically mined out. It's not worth a whole lot. Oh my god, Naib saved the base. I thought it was doomed. Yeah, Asure cannot get the Mortal Kombat finishing move here. Where are those paragons he hinted at so long ago? He's got the bank to build them, he's got the supply room to make them. His Titans aren't getting it done. As long as we're throwing out ideas, how about the new ward? Could a ward shield help him break into the Terran defensive position? I'm not too sure, because we've already seen that tanks can bring down wards pretty quick. Oh, this is a good adjustment by Naib. He's stopped sieging and unsieging all his tanks. By leaving a couple in siege mode, he risks them being out of position, but they're gonna get some shots off. He won't be caught moving them back and forth all day long. Asure's gonna max out the last of his supply on myriads. Strangely, the one unit that's really worked for Asure is his Auroras. But would they work now with the Thors being present? I think they would, because I think he can win the maneuverability game. I'd like to see that. I suppose the risk is you put too much of your supply in Auroras and your opponent just counterattacks you. But the Marine count is super low. I think the Thors are too slow, and the tanks are absolutely going to do nothing against Auroras. Oculus pools all over the Terran third. Another Terran counterattack. The Aegis shield is there to save again, but there's a long-range tank bombardment. Remember, Keiron units inside the shield can safely shoot out of it. Naib's figured that out, and that's why he's attacking from range. I am very happy to be seeing some Aegis action. Really happy our players are showcasing this. I really gotta review the stats on that shield because it seems so durable. There it drops. The sad part again is this is not exactly a mission critical location for Asure anymore. Yes, it's a functioning base, but it is largely mined out. Oh, watch what these Titans can do to those tanks. Tanks have such a slow attack speed that being slowed for— oh! 5 Paragons on the way to the Terran base. Asure is doing requests tonight. Yeah, I don't think one missile turret's gonna be a problem here. Naib's gonna react by making 3 Thors. So the Paragons are like BCs and carriers. They're not that fast. They can abuse the terrain against the Thors, but they don't have the speed to do it as well as other units will. Oh, that command center. It was Para here, and now it's Paragon. Thors popping out individually. He needs to group those together. Paragons are worried their window's closing. They're gonna retreat. Oh my lord, Asure's supply has crumbled. There's been a counterattack. The Keiron have lost a ton of their army, and now Naib has been pushing through. Apparently the Paragons I was pushing for turned out to be a horrible idea. And at the 27-minute mark, suddenly Naib has a chance to win this game. This game that should have been over at the 13-minute mark. Asure has the bank. He needs the charges to make units. He's making volts, but that's not gonna cut it. The slow-moving Paragons are coming back to help, as are the Titans. That is doing a number on the tanks. The Aegis shields goes down, but the Aegis itself is actually firing. And Naib is caught in a pincer attack. And just like that, we're tied up again. And then Asure orders 10 myriads. 10. True, I don't love myriads so much against this composition, but 10 of anything will rock your world. It really does look like Asure lost all of his inducers, and that's probably why his supply count plummeted. Oh, the Paragons don't want to fight those Thors straight up, but at least they keep the Terran distracted so the Titans and myriads can do their work. Yeah, there really are 10 myriads. What do you call a pack of myriads? How about a plethora? I'm going with that. Scratch that. Let's call it a multitude of myriads. This goes to show how hard it is to kill an opponent with a bank. But Asure's bank is no longer what it was. I mean, Terran is actually outmining the Keiron on gas right now. And you know, once in a blue moon, gas turns out to be important in StarCraft. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Gas is absolutely critical. Both our players grabbing new bases. Asure's had vision over this location for the longest time, so there's no way that he's gonna miss it. He shuts that base down, but here comes the tanks. All right, I think this game is officially 10 steps past crazy. Once again, Asure is trying to grapple with how does he close this out? I think so many other Terran players would have packed it in by now. But Naib is just hanging in, waiting for those moments. Oh my goodness, he did go back to Auroras. I swear Asure is taking requests tonight. It's a simple thing, it costs him very little, but it's gonna be such a headache for that slow mech army. So the multitude of myriads is actually now at 12. I think Asure misunderstands how this unit works. It's supposed to be a myriad of elytra, not a myriad of myriads. But I do love the concept of the walking production facility. It's a wonderful homage to the Starcraft 1 Reaver and Scarab. Yeah, those Auroras are being a total pest. Here comes the death ball. Asure is officially maxed. Naib is going Tank Thor Medevac, which makes me think he might be going for some kind of a last Hail Mary drop. Though last may not be in Naib's vocabulary, that dude does not give up. See, perfect. The Thors arrive, the Auroras leave. They're like, fine, I'll just go kill another one of your bases then. If you really want a stand-up fight, why don't you take on a dozen myriads? Backed by Titans. So yes, the tanks are terrific at splatting the elytra, but if Asure can make them 12 at a time, I'm not sure that it matters. You know what might be the strategy for Naib? Just make a whole bunch of fortresses and surround them with SCVs for the hug. That seems to have been his MVP this game. Oh yeah, the Auroras are just killing the worker count here. Sure, Terran has mules, but I don't think he wants his worker count that low. Well, if you ever wanted to see a game that illustrated the dynamics between the different units in KVT, I feel like this might be the game. Oh, Naib's gonna try the Aegis again, because that's gone so well for him in the past. I guess at some point it just becomes a symbol. I gotta take that thing down. And this time he bombards the shield into oblivion. As a bonus prize, there's actually a spare Zenith hiding behind that citadel. Oh, Azure's not coming back to defend. Oh, he's had enough. I think he's inviting a base race here. I gotta think both these armies are actually poorly suited to a base race. Most of the Keiron army's bonus damage versus light, and it's not terribly mobile. But compared to the Terran army, they kind of look like they're a sprint team. Oh, Asure tried to shape in some Titans at home, but they're just gonna get splatted. Here we go, our first time dilation. 31 minutes, Naib gets his first citadel. But he's got giant beetles on the doorstep of his natural. I mean, it did mine out 48 years ago. And that eBay researched everything it's capable of researching last Christmas. But the point is, he's being overrun. He's headed for the main. That has always been the heart of the Terran production facilities. That Thor is just in a terrific position. Though to be honest, it's probably just where the Thor spawned as opposed to any great placement attempt by Naib. Though you never know, he might have set a rally point. Terran's doing some honest damage here as he creeps forward. It's just that it's happening way too slow. The great news is he's killing his opponent's Zenith. The bad news, his opponent has 7 more. Oh, Asure might be reconsidering the base race. It looks like he's pulling his army home. And he's long distance mining at his opponent's 4th base location. He's actually putting an extra citadel there. Terran needs to take defensive positions around that citadel. Wouldn't that be funny? It's like not a base race, but a base swap. That has actually happened in Starcraft before. It's always a delight to see. Okay, base race is officially over. Terran's not unsieging. We're gonna have a clash for sure. Oh, Keiron should do an energize. He does. That's slick. Get that extra buff right before he attacks. Naib gets a second citadel. It's only gonna cost him the entirety of his army here. The Titans just run right through it. Naib, though, shows no sign of giving up. He is rebuilding. This is resilience at its finest. Usually when your opponent's expanding to your 4th, that means you've probably lost. But Naib's like, nope, I've turned this game around 3 times before. It ain't over till it's over. As long as we're making boxing references, I feel like the referee should step in and end this fight. The beatings these guys have laid down on each other. I think there will be permanent psychological scars left behind. Here comes the Grand March of Titans. We know how they feel about those fortresses. There's no repair hug this time though. Naib just doesn't have the SCVs. Naib be like, what? You can do a worker pull? I wish I had workers to pull. Both our players have to be absolutely mentally exhausted at this point. There is absolutely no defense. Everybody's just running around mopping up like mad. Okay, Terran is basically mining nothing at this point. To be fair, neither is Keiron really, but it is much more dire for Terran. Naib's gonna roll 5 tanks off the line. They've helped him hold the line all game long. The Titans go after another undefended fortress. This is revenge for the time you obliterated my army. When you have this many Titans, you gotta wonder if the Ghostbuster rule about not crossing the streams has any relevance. Oh, Terran has set up to the north here. Are we gonna get the clash? Terran's gas mining is absolute zero right now. He is producing the very last of the tanks he can make. Dive holds! Asure pulls back! He must know his opponent's on life support here. Maybe Asure's goal this game is to build in all 16 bases on the map. I feel like he's gotta be pretty close at this point. 35 minutes this is stretched on. It's not a Starcraft record by any stretch, but it might be a Scion record. I'm exhausted and I'm not even playing. Naib has regained his fourth. He just needs a refinery somehow. Oh, a clash! Nobody's backing off. Keiron just needs an even trade for victory here. Naib's gonna give it to him. I think Terran might have the win here, but it's gonna be like one of those at what cost things. Oh my god, Asure's not building new units. This cannot be. There is no way Naib is winning this. I cannot live in this alternate reality. And now the tanks are going on a damage tour. Terran has 14 workers, 0 gas. Aegis to the rescue. Terran goes to work on the shield. The Auroras arrive. They merge with some fuses. Does that mean they can go toe-to-toe with the Thors? Oh, even better, they're gonna stay behind the Aegis shield. That is as smart as it is dirty. He loses his tanks. Naib does not have the gas bank to make more. I guess he's still got one. Asure looking to go back to inducers. Possibly one of the all-time most effective units inside an Aegis shield. Except that the Aegis shield has fallen. And Naib got his gas back online. Oh, Asure retreats his Aegis back to his main. I think he's surrendering this base. Once again, the army size between the two races is very close. Naib is making Hellions. I don't think that's any great compositional strategy. I think it's just because they don't cost gas and they come out of a factory. Asure's gonna charge. Why did he retreat the Aegis then? Who has enough here? If he loses that last Thor, the Auroras go unopposed. He gets it. There's the GG. Asure wins in a punishing 37 minutes. Bad observer. At the 27-minute mark, I was so enamored with the Paragons that I missed this. I put it in split screen, but this is where Asure's army got crushed. And it was interesting too, because it's something you don't see every day. Yes, it's gonna be a fortress hug that's gonna be his undoing. But how often do you see a death ball get taken down like this by pun-pun tanks? They're completely unsieged. The MVP though is that fortress. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to show you guys. I always say if I can't analyze the game within the 37 minutes I was already allotted, then I don't deserve to do it now. But I did have a good time with this one. So let me just say from my base to yours, Zugzwang out.